So today we're going to talk about the backstory of new market growth, which is where I'm spending my time professionally. For those of you not familiar with the business, it's a marketing agency specifically designed to help lenders build affiliate programs and optimize them. So very niche, just me and my business partner, Robert Sezo, and we serve a handful of clients today. I get questions from people of like, well, how did you do it? How'd you get into this? How'd you transition out of your 9 to 5 to start this thing? So I'll just go through the story. And then if you all have further questions, just you know where to find me. Social media, usually the best place. So LinkedIn, Twitter, email's fine too. All that stuff's in the show notes. I'll start actually probably over a decade ago. Kind of my first real professional experience with affiliate marketing. I was actually at a company outside of financial services. I would call the category that we're in like what's now called like connected home, like home security equipment, that sort of thing. And I've lost touch with that industry and where it sits today. But back then, almost all the leads were generated through digital marketing. And that was a wide breadth of channels: display, search, affiliate. The business I worked in did considerable affiliate marketing. So I was very much involved in that and could kind of see the dynamics of how things worked. And my take here at this time was, look, it's interesting. There's some real dynamics here to think through, but it's not the most complicated thing in the world. You know, like you need to set a CPA, you need to have a highly effective landing page. In the case of our business, we took those leads and we sold to them on the phone. So your call center operation needs to be really efficient so that you take those leads that you pay for and you convert them at a high rate to keep your CAC down. I started noticing that some affiliates charge per lead, others charge you for a closed deal, which creates kind of different incentives and different outcomes. And then we had to kind of keep the LTV of the customer we acquired in mind. The nature of our product was such that we didn't know for sure how much money we were going to make from each customer. It was a subscription product. So, some customers might have held on for 10 years, others might have held on for a year. So there was definitely some modeling and some sensitivity to do there, so that you could figure out how much could you reasonably pay for a new customer. So I thought that was actually quite a bit of fun. It didn't strike me as the most complicated marketing channel, especially when you compare it to like SEM, something like that, where you have to manage this really long list of keywords and you have to bid on each of them individually and create ad copy for each of them. If you're doing it well, you're creating landing pages for each keyword so that it's contextual to what the person searched for. Or like a channel like direct mail, where a lot of those challenges are present, where there's just a lot of minutia that you have to deal with. In the affiliate world, it didn't seem like the minutia factor was quite as intense, which actually made it fun to navigate the channel. So I enjoyed my work there. Later on, ended up spending 4 years at Credit Karma, and noticed like a lot of the same principles applied. You had to convert really well, and I was on the other side of the ecosystem now, selling media to lenders. But having come from a lending background, I had spent 6.5 years earlier in my career at Capital One, so kind of got a really close look at credit card economics and what goes into that, and the quality of the customer you acquire is just a really big deal. So I could see, being on the other side, the lenders, the nature of the questions, the nature of the interaction showed me very clearly that not just how many leads they were getting mattered to them, but the quality of those leads was really important. The LTV piece of this, I mentioned it in the connected home context, but materially more complicated here. In the connected home context, if you know how many months, more or less within a certain error band, you have the LTV, and it's not that complicated. In cards, you have to start making assumptions around credit lines and yield and loss rates, usage. And so in cards, the LTV is just more complicated, just kind of more uncertainty, I would say. So the best case and the worst case LTV was kind of in a narrow band. In my prior experience with affiliate here, it was quite wider, which put risk actually on both sides of the partnership there. Also, we started introducing predictive models used on the publisher side. We start introducing targeting models that are used on the lending side. Attribution questions like, well, I can see how much direct benefit I'm getting from my marketing in the channel, but how much indirect benefit am I getting? Is it a positive indirect benefit, i.e. I get more stuff from my other kind of native channels, or do I get less stuff because this channel cannibalizes? So there were like some pretty interesting attribution questions. Some big observations there with regard to the nature of affiliate. One is that it's a very high stakes channel for many lenders. Two, that the sophistication level across lender slash media buyers just varied considerably. Some were highly sophisticated, others weren't as much. Third was the way, particularly risk and marketing, those two organizations collaborated with each other. Some were just very collaborative, where they almost acted and operated as one team, versus others almost didn't even talk to each other. Risk did their thing, marketing did their thing, and maybe there was some other organization internally or some executive arbitrating disagreements. But that was really interesting. And then lastly, a lot of organizations were leaving value on the table, it seemed to me, just by not making the most out of each of their levers. So, I mean, at that point, starting a business around advising lenders, like, it wasn't even in the back of my head. I was enjoying the work I was doing. Karma, we saw a lot of growth during my years there. I was one of the folks that helped bring the Lightbox product to market. So I had my hands full. I had plenty to do, and it was a nice ride. I think definitely one of the most memorable chapters of my career. So when I left Karma, I took my first shot as an entrepreneur. So with two other business partners, I built a legal services marketplace. So the easiest way to describe this is something like ZocDoc, if you're familiar with that. And ZocDoc is just kind of a place where you can go find a doctor. So you put your zip code, what you need. You need a dermatologist. You'll see all the dermatologists in your zip code. You can book an appointment with them. And it simplifies the search process, in my opinion. We built something similar for lawyers. We started in family law. So the most common use case we saw in our market was divorces, separations, that sort of thing. So folks needed an attorney to help them with that. So we designed and built the product. We were in market long enough to see that customers really liked it, lawyers really liked it. So I don't want to make this an episode around this particular business, because I could probably talk about this for hours. So I'll just kind of hit on some of the big challenges we had and why we ultimately shut the business down. So the first one was around distribution. We were playing primarily in SEM, so Bing, Yahoo, primarily Google. And we were paying something like $20 per click just to get someone on our landing page. I know it seems kind of insane, even saying it out loud. That number could even go to $20 or $30 per click. And then we had to convert them on our end. So that was a challenge. Our economics were, I would say, break even to slightly negative during the time we were in market. That was a kind of a big, meaty challenge, because it wasn't obvious to us how we would necessarily scale out of the channel, because it seemed like the other channels we were looking at had other significant hurdles to cross. And then the second one was things particular to that industry, the way it's regulated, the way lawyers go about their business, made monetizing that business quite harder than we expected, actually. None of those challenges it didn't feel insurmountable to us, but it also didn't feel like a space where investors were going to be excited to come in and invest. And it also felt unlikely to us that we could bootstrap it to, scale and profitability under any reasonable time frame. It was probably going to take us too long and cost too much money to get there. At this point, we're talking like late 2021. Okay, so we shut that business down. I ended up back in the fintech space shortly thereafter. I took a head of partnerships role, kind of a fintech lender, company called Caribou. You're familiar with it. That later turned into a head of customer acquisition. But the nice thing about it is I got to work with many of those large affiliate organizations. So I mentioned some of the challenges earlier that I saw lenders have on affiliate. And it was interesting to kind of get the perspective from the lender side now. Some of the things I was able to validate. One is that, yes, indeed, this is high stakes for many lenders. Two, I was seeing the sophistication across not just folks within our organization, but as I studied our competitors, this was within auto refi. So I was studying the auto refi competition. Again, just varied levels of sophistication as it pertained to how they were running affiliate programs. Three, just kind of underscored that how you organize internally is very important. So how do risk and marketing kind of coordinate? Do you have a GM running the program? Is it a consensus-based thing where 2, 3, or even more executives have to come together to make decisions for affiliates? And then again, confirming that it was apparent to me that many organizations were leaving value on the table. So this was going on in the background. I was at Caribou for about 2 years. And a little after I joined, this is where I started kind of in earnest building a personal brand And this podcast right now is an example of more personal brand. And in this context, it's combined with promotion for my agency, but fundamentally still personal brand, building trust with potential customers or employers. So I've been writing on a wide variety of topics. My experiences over my career, takes on marketing, hot takes on tech, career transitions, that sort of thing. I was a little all over the place. What was obvious to me was people were reading my stuff, and I was actually doing more networking than I ever had in my entire career. So meeting, on the order of 2, 3, 4 people a week who would ping me and say, hey, interesting piece, interesting post, can we chat? So kind of validated, hey, this LinkedIn thing is really useful from a networking perspective, but it wasn't leading to any specific business results for me. But it was clear it was something I wanted to continue to do. And this is a bit of about a year in now into writing. And then at a certain point, I decided, look, my niche and one of the things I know best here is affiliate marketing, but from a lender perspective. And it's really this combination of risk, which I kind of built out while I was at Capital One for over 6.5 years. And then this combination of like the performance marketing partnership side, which I built out somewhat at Credit Karma, but also across other marketing partnership sales roles I had across my career. So it felt like I had a point of view and potentially interesting things to say here about the category. So I started doing posts more in that niche. Okay. And what I found is the content resonated with people. I felt like I had some credibility in the category because it focused my social media presence. The second major piece here in the backstory for new market growth came together when I noticed a former colleague of mine, Robert Sezzo, was taking a career break or a sabbatical. I don't remember exactly what he called it. I certainly don't want to put words in his mouth, but he was similar to background to me, had been on the lending side at Capital One and had spent time at Credit Karma as well. So I gave him a call and I asked him how he felt about running a services business where we help lenders build affiliate marketing programs. And very quickly he's like, oh yeah, it was something I already had in my mind. I was considering doing kind of freelance consulting, advisory. So like we had instant alignment. And from there we just started assessing the market to see what it looked like, to really start to find out and put data behind, do we think there's something here? And a few months into that effort, Robert signed client number 1. So he took that client. And then as we were about to sign client number 2, I jumped in full time and we've been at it ever since. And I've been in this business, kind of focusing my attention there since early this year. Okay. I guess the synthesis here is that this business came about as a combination of deep experience in performance marketing, affiliate marketing, lending and credit risk, having built out a network over many years across many companies in lending, finding a business partner who was interested in collaborating with me, and then having dialed into content being a source of interest, credibility building, networking. So all these pieces came together where it felt worth the risk to jump in. I'm having a lot of fun navigating these situations with our clients and learning more about affiliates than I ever did in kind of a full-time head of partnerships role. I think just because I see more situations now in my current work and more situations across more varied contexts too. So the data set I'm building here is, I think, going to be a competitive advantage for us if we're able to stay into this business long enough. So today we serve card and personal loan partners. We get inquiries from other categories, for example, mortgage, deposit, small business. These are all categories I've seen interest from lately, and we are considering expanding into those areas. So if you're an expert in specifically mortgage, deposit products, or small business, either card or lending, I'd love to chat because I think we could benefit from partnering with some experts here as we consider expansion into those categories. And then also see an opportunity to expand beyond affiliate. So helping lenders with channels like direct mail, search, paid social. Those channels leverage many of the same principles as affiliate. Your targeting has to be dialed in, your funnel has to be really exceptional. You have to keep in mind credit risk principles and marketing principles, and you have to kind of combine all those things to make good judgment calls. So I'm excited about looking at that category at some point in the future. I don't have a timeline on that per se, but if you're a lender that needs help in direct mail, search, or paid social, I would love to chat and understand your needs, your challenges, what's worked with other agencies, what's failed, just so I can start to contextualize what this challenge looks like from your standpoint. So our focus today, again, it's just Robert and me right now. Our focus is delivering the best results we possibly can for existing clients, which we believe will lay the foundation for our growth. So anyways, if you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, there's a few things you can do. The easiest thing is just share episodes on social media. LinkedIn is I think, probably the best channel for that, but you can tag me on Twitter as well. Number 2 is if you have questions, if you have challenges, if you'd like to be on the show and you want to have a jam session on a particular question or something you're struggling with. And then lastly, if you could leave a review here on whatever podcast platform you found the show, that'll help other people discover it. And so thanks for spending the time today, and I'll see you next time.